Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Harper, and I'm a safety consultant with Kentucky Safe. And this announcement is a hazard alert for operators of skid steer loaders. Recent accidents highlight the dangers of skid steers and the importance of quality training and maintenance of equipment. Kentucky Safe urges employers and employees to be aware of these hazards and encourages them to strengthen their accident prevention efforts. Preventing injuries and deaths while operating and working near skid steer loaders has always been a challenge to control. Unfortunately, accidents while using these machines can be deadly. In Kentucky, one injury and two fatalities have occurred this year in 2022 as a result of skid steer loaders. Next, we will briefly go over these cases that have occurred in 2022. The first case, which was classified as a fatality, involved an employee standing under an elevated forklift attachment on a skid steer. The loaded fork attachment somehow unhooked from the quick disconnect coupler and fell on the employee's back, pinning him against the cab opening of the skid steer. The employee suffered fatal injuries as a result of this. The second case was classified as a hospitalization, involved an employee opening a trash bin to access a dumpster behind the gate. The employee took a step back to remove trash bags from a raised skid steer bucket so he could place the trash bags in the dumpster. As he did this, the skid steer bucket fell, striking the dumpster and then striking the employee. And then the last case, which was classified as a fatality, involved an employee falling from the forks to the top of the skid steer. The employee was crushed between the arms and the top of the skid steer when the operator lowered the arms. According to the National Traumatic Occupational Fatalities, or NTOF, surveillance system, the major types of accidents resulting from skid steers are pinning between the bucket and frame, or between the lift arm and the frame, crushing, rollovers, pinning between the loader and another object, and runovers. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, during the period of 1992 to 1994, there were 20 work-related fatalities involving skid steer loaders. 14 of these involved pinning between the loader bucket and frame, or between a lift arm and frame. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, or NIOSH, studies suggest that employers, supervisors, and workers may not fully appreciate the potential hazards associated with operating or working near skid steer loaders, and they may not follow safe work procedures for controlling these hazards. Improper operation of skid steer loaders can put workers at serious risk. These risks are similar to those associated with other types of mobile construction machinery, such as powered industrial trucks. However, skid steer loaders have features that expose workers to additional injury risks. Most skid steer loaders are configured with the operator seat and controls located between the two lift arms and the front of the lift arm pivot points. Always be aware of the crushing zone. The operator enters and exits through the front of the machine by stepping over the lowered lift arms and its attachment, which is usually a loader bucket. This front entry configuration places the operator in the crushing zone of the lift arm movement, with the potential of being caught between the machine frame and the lift arm or attachment if the controls are inadvertently activated during entry or exit. Side entry skid loaders were introduced into the US market in 1995. This side entry configuration removes certain hazards during entering and exiting the cab. However, the operator or worker could still be crushed if the lift arm and attachment are raised and they walk into the area of the crushing zone mentioned in the previous slide. Skid steer loaders are very compact, and the operator sits close to the zone of lift arm movement, as depicted in these photos. The potential for injury of being caught between the lift arm and the machine frame is still present when safe procedures are not followed. Here are some current safeguards being used on skid steer loaders. Interlock controls. These controls prevent the unintentional control activation. Skid steer loaders that are equipped with interlock control systems typically require a safety device such as a seat belt be secured, or restraint bar or bars be properly positioned before the operational controls can function. This ensures that the operator is safely seated away from the zone of lift arm movement before the machine can be operated. Rollover protective structures and operator restraints. Rollover protective structures, or ROPS for short, and operator restraints such as seat belts are provided to keep the operator inside the machine during rollover incidents. Falling object protective structures, or FOPS for short, are provided to protect the operator from being struck by falling materials. And side screens, which are metal or glass screens integrated into the ROPS to prevent the operator from leaning or reaching out of the operator's compartment and coming into contact with the moving lift arm. Side screens may also protect operators from being injured by debris or objects entering the operator's compartment. When it comes to employee training, OSHA does require training pertaining to skid steer loaders. Though there are no current OSHA regulations in the construction industry that specifically address skid steer loaders, 29 CFR 1926 20B4 requires employers to permit only those employees qualified by training or experience to operate equipment and machinery, which would include skid steer loaders. There is also a surface vehicle standard developed by SAE International that addresses skid steer loader safety, known as J1388. This document contains design guidelines that address hazards such as machine rollovers and being caught between a lift arm and the frame, or the attachment and the frame. Kentucky Safe recommends that employers and workers comply with OSHA regulations and SAE J13AA recommended guidelines for personal protection. To conform to this standard, manufacturers must adhere to the following: provide warnings, operator instructions, and service procedures, equip machines with seat belts, provide a means to protect the operator from the hazard of a lift arm lowering when entering and exiting the machine, provide handholds and steps for entry and exiting from the loader, provide ROPS or FOPS with side shields, provide 2 access openings with 1 for emergencies, provide safety signs and instructions to warn users of potential hazards during normal operation and servicing. Take the following measures to prevent injury when operating or working near skid steer loaders. Always use and maintain the following safety devices provided by manufacturers. These devices would include lift arm support devices, control interlocks, seat belts, rollover protective structures or ROPS, fallen object protective structures or FOPS, side screens. Do not use the equipment if one of these devices is damaged. Follow safe operating procedures. Follow safe mounting and dismounting procedures. Follow proper maintenance procedures. And train workers to read and follow manufacturers' procedures for operating and servicing skid steer loaders. If you are an employer, make sure that your workers understand all the manufacturer's warnings and instructions before they operate a skid steer loader. Train workers to use the following safe operating procedures. Read and understand all safety and operating procedures outlined in the operator's manual, service manual, and safety decals. Stay seated when operating the loader controls. Operate with the seatbelt snugly fastened and the restraint bar properly positioned, if one is provided. Keep hands, arms, legs, and head inside the operator's compartment while operating the skid steer loader. Plan to load, unload, and turn on level ground when possible. Travel and turn with the bucket at the lowest position possible. Never exceed the manufacturer's recommended load capacity for the machine. Operate on stable surfaces only. Avoid slippery surfaces. Avoid traveling across slopes. Travel straight up or down slopes with the heavy end of the machine pointed uphill. And always look in the direction of travel. Keep bystanders away from the work area. Never modify or bypass safety devices. Never carry riders. Be aware that each machine may operate differently. Enter and exit when the bucket or other attachment is flat on the ground, or when the lift arm support device is in place. Use the lift arm support device supplied or recommended by the manufacturer. To use the lift arm support device, the operator will raise the lift arm up to expose the silver hydraulic cylinder rod. Another worker will then place the support device around the hydraulic cylinder rod. The operator will then lower the lift arm till they rest on top of the support device. This will prevent the lift arms and attachment from lowering in the event of a hydraulic cylinder failure. When entering the loader, face the seat and keep a 3-point of contact with handholds and steps. Never use foot or hand controls as steps or handholds. Keep all walking and working surfaces clean and clear of debris. Before leaving the operator seat, lower the bucket or other attachment flat on the ground. Set the parking brake and turn the engine off. If unable to exit through the primary opening for entering the machine, use the emergency exit located at the back of the operator's compartment or as specified by the manufacturer. Many injuries occur when loads or attachments are not secured. Before you pick up a load, raise the rotor arms up and look at the pins on the backside of the coupler to make sure that they are engaged with the attachment. If they are not, and you get under the load, the attachment can fall off. When it comes to maintaining and repairing skid steer loaders, employers should require the following for authorized personnel. Follow manufacturer's instructions for maintaining the loader. Do not attempt to work on equipment unless you are trained and authorized. Keep the foot controls and the operator's compartment free of mud, ice, snow, or debris. Regularly inspect and maintain the following safety devices: control interlocks, seat belts, restraint bars, side screens, roller protective structures, and falling object protective structures. Never modify or bypass safety devices. Before servicing the loader, lower the bucket or other attachment flat on the ground. Set the parking brake and turn off the machine. If the machine cannot be serviced with the bucket on the ground, remove the bucket or attachment and use the lift arm support device recommended or provided by the manufacturer. If the machine is not equipped with a lift arm support device or it is damaged, contact the equipment dealer or manufacturer's representative for help in selecting a proper support device or replacement parts. Train operators and workers who operate and service skid steer loaders to read and follow manufacturers' operating and service procedures in the operator's manuals and service manuals and on the loader's safety signs. Allow only trained operators to use skid steers. Train other employees to use caution when in the area of skid steer loaders, and always wear high visibility clothing or vests. For help with such training, contact the equipment manufacturer or check the manufacturer's website for the availability of training resources. Obtain manuals, instructional videos, and operator and service training courses from the equipment dealer or manufacturer. Pictured is an example of the proper load balance for going up or down uneven ground. Again, never allow extra riders to ride on a skid steer loader. This is an example of a skid steer loader operating with a additional attachment. This would be a backhoe loader attachment. And again, this is a reminder to use 3 points of contact for safe entry and exit, and always use a seat belt. And finally, this is an example of everything going wrong. And this concludes this hazard alert pertaining to skid steer loaders. For any questions pertaining to this hazard alert, again, my name is Richard Harper, and I'm a safety consultant with Kentucky Safe, and I can be reached at the following phone number and email listed on this slide. You can also obtain a written version of this webinar on our website, kentuckysafe.ky.gov, which I've provided a link on this slide, and is listed under the items of interest. Thank you for watching.